Don't skip. Don't move. Because what I'm about to tell you is not a coincidence. The fact that you are here right now, watching this, in this moment, that was arranged, that was chosen. Before you opened this, before your finger moved, something was already guiding you here. And I need you to understand that. Because what God is about to say through this message is meant for you specifically, not the person next to you, not your neighbor, not someone you'll share this with later. You, within the next hour, something is going to shift inside you. A weight you have been carrying, quietly, without telling anyone, is going to lift. And I want you to hold on until the end, because the most important thing I am going to say will not come in the first 5 minutes. The breakthrough is waiting for you at the end of this road. Don't leave before it finds you. God says, stop apologizing for crying at the grocery store. I put that song on overhead on purpose. You know what I am talking about, don't you? You were just going about your business, reaching for something off the shelf, walking down an aisle you have walked down 100 times before, and then it came on. A song, a melody, maybe just a few notes, and before you even understood what was happening, something inside you cracked open and the tears came, and you looked around to see if anyone noticed, and you turned away, and you pretended to study the label on a tin you had no intention of buying, and you told yourself, pull yourself together. This is embarrassing. What is wrong with you? But God says nothing was wrong with you. Pay close attention, my beloved child. Nothing was wrong with you. That moment was holy. That song was not an accident. That grocery store aisle was a sanctuary, and you did not know it, and He was standing right beside you. Let me ask you something, and I want you to really sit with this question. When was the last time someone asked how you were doing and genuinely waited for the answer? Not the automatic exchange at the door, not the quick "how are you" on the phone that expects nothing more than fine and gets it. When was the last time someone sat across from you, looked at you, really looked at you, and said, I want to know how you are? Not fine, how you actually are. If you had to think a long time to remember, you're not alone. And I want you to know that God sees it. He sees the smile you put on when you leave the house. He sees the way you tidy yourself up before the phone call so your voice sounds bright. He sees the way you wave goodbye at the door, and then, the moment it closes, the wave comes. Don't skip this, because I am about to name something that has lived inside you for so long that it has stopped feeling like pain and started feeling like just the way things are. And that is the most dangerous kind of grief, the kind that has made itself at home. You spent decades being the one who held things together. You were the warmth in the room. You were the hands in the kitchen long after everyone else had gone to sit down. You were the one who remembered the birthdays, who checked on the sick ones, who pressed extra food into people's hands on the way out the door. You gave and gave and gave, and the giving felt like purpose, and the purpose felt like love, and the love felt like enough. But somewhere along the way, without anyone saying so out loud, the roles quietly shifted. The people you poured yourself into built lives of their own, and they got busy, and the phone calls got shorter, and the visits got fewer, and you told yourself this was normal. You told yourself this is what growing up looks like. You told yourself this is what you wanted for them: independence, fullness, their own lives. And you meant it. You meant every generous word of it. But in the quiet of the evenings, in the space after the news and before sleep, something sat with you that had no name. A missing, not a specific thing, just a missing. Something very big is coming your way. But first, type "God sees my missing" in the comments right now if this is touching something real in you. Let heaven know you are here. Let God see that you showed up today. This message doesn't stop with you. It reaches the one who is still searching, still doubting, still crying out in the dark. If this ministry has strengthened your faith, consider strengthening someone else's. When you give through the link in the description or pinned comment, whether by buying a coffee, partnering monthly, or joining our Ko-fi community, you're not funding content. You're fueling the Great Commission. Every gift becomes gospel carried further. Every act of generosity pushes light into places we may never physically stand. There are people one message away from hope, one prayer away from surrender, one encounter away from salvation. Your generosity helps us reach them. This is more than support. It's participation. You're stepping into the harvest field with us. And when heaven counts the souls reached, your obedience will be written into their story. If the Spirit is prompting you, don't ignore it. Step into the work. Let's bring the lost home. Now I want to tell you something that is happening right now, in real time, in the life of the person who has drifted furthest from you. Because God does not just see your side of the story, He sees all of it. And what He is showing me about what is happening on the other end, it is going to change the way you have been reading this season. That person, the one whose name just came to your mind, is not sleeping well. I want you to hear that. They are not resting the way they used to. Something has been keeping them awake in the small hours, something they cannot explain to the people around them, something that has no good reason to be there, but refuses to leave. Don't skip, because here is what God is doing. He is pressing your face back into their memory. He is bringing you forward in their mind at the moments they least expect it. Last week, it was something small. The way the evening light fell through a window, or a smell from a kitchen, or a song, and your face came, your voice came, and they sat with it longer than they planned to, and they did not entirely know why. God is placing a stone of remembrance in the center of their chest. He is making them remember the version of you they took for granted, the hands that cooked for them, the voice that called to check on them, the patience you showed when patience cost you something real, the way you always had something ready when they walked through your door, even when they did not call ahead, even when it was inconvenient, even when you had your own trouble that you tucked out of sight so they would not have to see it. They are remembering that now, not just fondly, with something sharper than fondness, with the particular ache of realizing what something was worth only after the distance has grown. Pay close attention, because God is also beginning to dismantle the story they told themselves, the story that made the distance feel justified. Every human being who pulls away from someone they love builds a story to make it feel reasonable, and God is quietly, relentlessly pulling that story apart at the seams. Type, "The story is unraveling" in the comments if you receive this. Declare it over the situation. What God begins, He finishes. Let me tell you about a moment that happened recently, and when I say recently, I mean within the last days. It was an ordinary situation. They were somewhere ordinary, at work, or running an errand, or sitting with people who know nothing about you, and a coworker, or a stranger, or someone in passing said something small, something that had nothing to do with you, but it landed wrong. It cracked something open. Maybe someone mentioned a mother. Maybe someone talked about what their grandmother used to make. Maybe someone said, "My mum always said," and they did not hear the rest of the sentence because they had already gone somewhere else inside themselves. To you, to your kitchen, to the sound of your voice, saying something ordinary, to the particular way you did a specific thing that nobody else in their life does exactly the way you did it. And they had to excuse themselves, or they went quiet in a way that someone noticed, or they held it together in public and then sat in a car alone for longer than they needed to before they drove anywhere. Don't blink, because God is doing something deliberate here. He is not letting them get comfortable. Every time they try to settle back into the distance, something interrupts. A song comes on. They find something of yours in a drawer, an old note, a photograph, something small and unremarkable that suddenly feels enormous. And that thing sits in their hands and they do not put it down as quickly as they used to. But here is what you need to understand about why they haven't called yet. It is not because they do not want to. It is not because they have forgotten. It is because the shame has grown too large to move around. The longer something goes unaddressed between two people who love each other, the more impossible it starts to feel to address it. They have gone over it in their mind. What do I even say? How do I begin? Where do we start after all this time? Their thumb has hovered over your name more than once. More than once they have typed a first word and deleted it. More than once they have come to the edge of reaching and then pulled back, because the fear of doing it imperfectly was stronger in that moment than the hunger to do it at all. This is not indifference, my beloved child. I need you to hear that clearly. This is not indifference. This is a person drowning quietly in the distance they created and not knowing how to swim back to shore. And God is going to provide them the current. Type, "Their silence is shame, not indifference," in the comments. Receive this reframe. Let it change the way you have been carrying this. Now I am going to do something that may feel impossible. I am going to give you the conversation, not the vague promise of someday, the actual words, because God says you have waited long enough for them, and He wants to put them in your ears today, even before they arrive at your door. They are going to say, "I'm sorry. I'm sorry I let so much time go. I'm sorry I made the distance feel like it was nothing, when I knew, somewhere, that it was everything. I'm sorry I got so caught up in my own life that I forgot to include you in it. I'm sorry for the birthdays that passed. I'm sorry for the Christmases when the call came late or didn't come at all. I'm sorry for the times you sat by that phone and I knew you were sitting by it, and I told myself I would call tomorrow, and tomorrow became a season, and a season became something I don't have a word for. Don't move, because they are not done. They are going to say, I need you. I never stopped needing you. I just convinced myself that needing you was something I could set down for a while, and I didn't understand until I set it down that it doesn't work that way, that you don't get to set something down and have it wait patiently in the same place until you come back for it. People are not shelves, and I was foolish, and I am sorry. They are going to say, you were right. Not about anything small, about the things that mattered, the things I dismissed or rolled my eyes at or argued against because I was too proud to admit that someone who loved me for my whole life might see me more clearly than I saw myself. You were right about all of it. And then they are going to say the thing that has lived inside them longest, the thing most covered in shame. the thing they have rehearsed in the small hours and could never bring themselves to say out loud. I'm scared I waited too long. I'm scared that one day I'll reach for you and you won't be there. And I couldn't live with that. I could not live with that. You are about to find out something very important. As these words reach your ears right now, even through a screen, even through this message, God is gathering the fragments, every piece of you that broke quietly, alone, in a room no one else was in. Every crack that opened in a grocery store aisle when a song came on. He is gathering every fragment, and he is holding them, and he is already beginning the work of restoration. Your healing is not waiting on their phone call. It has already started. The phone call is just the confirmation. Type, I receive these words over my life in the comments. Seal this over your story. Heaven is listening. Revival doesn't spread by accident. It spreads because believers decide to act. If this message stirred something in you, imagine what it could do for someone who has never heard truth spoken with clarity. When you give through the link below, whether once or as an ongoing partner, you help send the gospel beyond this moment. You become part of every testimony, part of every restored heart, part of every soul that turns back to Christ. Your generosity turns sermons into lifelines and videos into divine appointments. Scripture tells us that some plant, some water, but God brings the increase. Today, you can be the one who plants. If you believe souls matter, this is your opportunity to move from agreement to action. Let's reach them while there is still time. Before we go any further, and we are going somewhere glorious, so hold on. I want to stop here and simply be with you, because there is something the world does not give enough room for, and I want to give you that room right now. The world has a list of griefs it recognizes. It knows how to respond to a death. It knows how to send flowers and casseroles and cards with the right words. It knows that a person who has lost someone needs time and grace and a pass on the ordinary requirements of life for a season. The world has learned to honor that kind of grief. But the world doesn't have a name for what you carry. The grief of a living distance, the loss of someone who is still alive and choosing, day by day, not to close the space between you. There is no card for that. There is no casserole for that. People do not know what to say, so mostly they say nothing, or they say something well-meaning that lands like a stone. Maybe try reaching out to them, as though it has not occurred to you, as though you have not reached and found nothing to hold. And so you have carried this in secret. You have smiled in the right places. You have said fine and meant something entirely different. You have sat in church pews with your hands folded and praised God out loud while something was bleeding quietly underneath, and nobody asked, and you would not have known how to answer if they had. Don't skip, my beloved child, because God was there. I need you to know this with your whole being. He was there in the kitchen when you set one place instead of two, and then stood at the counter for a moment too long before you sat down. He was there on the Sunday when the rest of the family gathered somewhere, and you found out through a photograph, not an invitation. He was there on the Tuesday night when you ate alone at a table built for more, and the chair across from you was empty, and the television was on just to have a voice in the room. He was sitting across from you at that table. He was not absent. He counted every course of that meal. He counted every minute. And he wants me to tell you something that I need you to receive without arguing with it. You did not go wrong. You did not fail. This is not the harvest of some invisible mistake you made. You poured yourself out with a love that was real and costly and consistent. And what happened after that is not a verdict on your worth. You were not the problem. You were the gift that was not recognized in season. And God says that the season is turning. If you have been watching this channel and you believe that God is speaking through these messages, I want to gently ask you, if you feel in your spirit that these words are being sent directly to you, subscribe to this channel and turn on the bell. Don't do it for any ordinary reason. Do it as an act of trust. Do it as a declaration that you are not finished receiving, that you are open to every prophetic word God has prepared for you through this place. Subscribe as an act of faith and share this message with one person, just one, who you know is carrying something similar. When you share, you don't just pass a video, you pass the anointing, you extend the breakthrough, you become part of God's delivery system. Type, "I did not go wrong," in the comments. Say it out loud as you type it. Let your fingers make that declaration. Let it be written. Let it be received. Now I want to tell you about the specific memories that God is using, because He is not working in abstractions. He is working in the particular. He is working in the exact and specific texture of your shared history, and He knows exactly which moments to press on to reach the heart that has grown distant. The first memory is your hands. They cannot escape your hands. The way your hands moved, in the kitchen, at the table, reaching to fix something on their collar, pressing something into their palm as they left. Nobody's hands move the way your hands moved. Nobody in their current life carries that specific warmth, that specific efficiency, that love that expressed itself through motion rather than speech. They will catch sight of their own hands one day soon, and the resemblance will stop them cold, and you will be there in the room with them, suddenly and completely. Don't move. The second memory is a smell, something ordinary, bread or a particular soap, or the smell of the house in a certain season. They will be somewhere they have been 100 times, and the smell will be there, out of place, unexplained, and it will pull them backward through years in an instant, and they will stand in the middle of wherever they are, and they will be briefly, completely somewhere else, in your home, in your care, in the safety that they did not know they were memorizing at the time. The third memory is your voice, not what you said, the sound of how you said it, the particular pitch and cadence of your voice saying their name. Nobody says their name the way you say it, with that specific ownership and tenderness, that sound that means, "You are mine, and I am glad of it." They hear their name called 100 times in a week by people who know them, but none of those voices reach the place inside them that yours reaches, and the absence of it has created a silence they cannot fill. The fourth memory is an ordinary evening, nothing dramatic, just the ordinary evening of being together, the unremarkable warmth of proximity, the television on in the background, the easy silence of people who do not have to perform for each other. They have not had a silence like that since. Every room they are in now requires something from them. They are never fully at rest. The rest they had with you was a gift they thought was ordinary, and they understand now that it was rare. Nobody in their life gives them that kind of rest anymore. Type, "God is pressing on the memories." If you receive this, agree with what He is doing. Partner with it. What you agree with in the spiritual realm, you accelerate in the natural. This is the part most people scroll past, but it is where the breakthrough begins. So I need you to stay with me. Put down what you are doing. Give me these next minutes completely. God is not finished arranging things. He has been pressing and disrupting and sending memories and dismantling stories and hovering thumbs over call buttons, and now he is moving into the final arrangement, the one that leads to your door. I want you to see it. Close your eyes for just a moment if you are able, and see it with me. There is a moment coming, not far from now, not in some distant future that feels like a fairy tale. A real moment, in real time, in the ordinary flow of an ordinary day, when something will happen that you have stopped letting yourself picture too clearly, because hope has cost you before, and you learn to protect yourself from it. But I am asking you to picture it today, because God says you have earned the right to see it. There will be a knock, or a ring, or a car in the driveway you recognize before you see whose it is. And you will go to the door, and you will open it, and standing there will be the face that has been a wound for so long. But the face will be different. The face will be done pretending. The eyes will be red, not from crying on the way here, though there may have been that too, but from a kind of raw honesty that has finally surfaced after years underground. And the arms will open, and you will stand for just a breath in that threshold, not quite believing, and then something in you will let go. The knot you have carried so long you forgot it was separate from you, and you will step in, and they will hold you, and they will say, "I'm sorry. I'm home." Don't skip this, because God also says the stress that has lived in your body, the kind that no doctor has been able to name precisely, the weight that sits in your chest in the quiet hours, that embrace will release something that medicine could not touch. Your body has been holding grief that had no exit. That moment will be the exit. Something will soften in you that has been braced for a very long time. Stop counting the days. Start counting the signs. And I am going to tell you what the signs look like, because they are already appearing. You have had moments recently of unexpected peace, a stillness that arrived without explanation and left you wondering where it came from. You have had dreams that did not feel like ordinary sleep. You have had the sense, more than once, of not being entirely alone in a room where you were physically alone. These are not your imagination. These are previews. These are heaven showing you the shape of what is already in motion. Type, "I see the signs. I receive the breakthrough." Let heaven know you are watching. Let God know you are believing. But God says the story does not end at the doorstep. The doorstep is only the beginning. Because when a relationship that has been closed reopens, it does not just restore what was lost. It creates space for things that were never there before. There are grandchildren who do not know you yet the way they should. There are small hands that have not yet learned the specific safety of yours. There are stories about who you are and where this family came from that have not yet been told to the ears that most need to hear them. That is changing. There is a child, or there will be, in the fullness of this, who is going to know your kitchen, who is going to sit at your table, who is going to carry something forward from you that neither of you can fully predict. A laugh, a way of saying things, a stubbornness about love that was passed down through blood and will not stay buried. Don't move, because there is more. God says that the reopening of this relationship will also bring with it a different kind of conversation. They are going to ask about your life, not your role, your life. They are going to want to know who you were before you were their mother, their grandmother, the one who cooked and cleaned and held things together. They are going to ask what you dreamed, what you loved, what you gave up, what you still want, and you are going to tell them. And in the telling, something in you that went underground decades ago is going to come back to the surface, blinking in the light. There is also restoration coming in the practical areas of your life. God says the years the locust has eaten are not gone. They are held. There are blessings that were delayed, not cancelled. Financial pressures that have been a low hum of anxiety in the background are beginning to shift. Doors that seemed sealed are going to open in ways you could not have engineered. And when they open, you will know exactly where they came from. And your family's story, the story of a love that was stretched and strained and somehow held, is going to become a testimony, not just for you, for other families who are watching a distance grow and cannot find the bridge. Your story is going to be the proof that the bridge can be built, that it is never too late, that God does not abandon the middle of a story just because it has gotten dark. Share this message today with one person whose story looks like yours. When you extend this word, you accelerate your own blessing. The anointing multiplies in the sharing. You are not just receiving today, you are becoming part of the delivery. Type, "My family is being restored," in the comments. Claim it over every name in your bloodline. Speak it into the spiritual atmosphere over your household. What is spoken in faith is what heaven moves toward. There are people battling silent storms who will never walk into a church, but they will click on a message like this. When you give through the link in the description or pinned comment, you help us meet them there. You help us speak truth where confusion reigns. You help us proclaim Christ where compromise has grown loud. This isn't about sustaining a platform. It's about standing in the gap for someone eternity bound. Your seed becomes truth for the deceived, strength for the weary, invitation for the lost. And while we may never know every name this side of heaven, God does. If you've ever prayed, "Lord, use me," this is one way He does. Join the mission. Let's carry the gospel further, together. My beloved child, we are at the end of this road together, and I want to do one final thing before I release you. I want you to close your eyes, just for a moment, and I want you to picture their face. Not as it is now, not the adult face, not the face shaped by all the years and all the distance, the younger face, the face that looked at you with something uncomplicated, the face that needed you and knew it, and had not yet learned to hide that knowing. Hold that face in your mind for just a breath. That is the face that is coming home to you. Not the same person. People cannot go backward, and you would not want them to. But carrying that face still, underneath everything, still yours, still connected to you by something that distance cannot dissolve and time cannot expire. What is coming is not a repair of what was broken. It is a resurrection of a bond that was never truly dead. It only went underground, and God is calling it back up into the light. Here is your activation for today. 3 things. First, go to the comments right now and type, "God put that song on overhead for me." Write it as your declaration. Write it as the moment you decided to stop apologizing for the grief that lives in ordinary places and start recognizing it as holy. Second, share this message with one person, just one, who has cried somewhere they felt they shouldn't have and never understood why. Third, if you have not yet subscribed to this channel, do it now as an act of faith, as a declaration that you are committing to receive every word that God has prepared for this season of your life. It is done. The arrangement is already in motion. The memories are already pressing. The story is already unraveling. The signs are already appearing. You have not been forgotten. You have not been abandoned. You have not gone wrong. You were guided to this grocery store aisle. You were guided to this screen, and you are going to be guided home. Receive it. Believe it. Watch it manifest. Amen.